Hello and welcome to a tier list video of all the shows that I have seen this academic year. So starting last September up until the end of this August, I have seen a total of 14 shows, which I think is pretty good going. Obviously, I go to drama school in Guildford, which is really close to London. So it's really easy to just go into London for the night and see a show. And I've also got a lot more comfortable with seeing shows on my own. And I think that's made a massive difference. So 14 shows this academic year, and I thought I would, rather than just going through them, I was just going to review them all, but rather than just going through them, I thought I'd do a little tier list to make it a little bit more fun and a little bit more visual for those of you who enjoy that. So I'm going to get my tier list up now. So my tier list, I've got 4 tiers. Sublime at the top. Now that is my S tier, that is my 5 stars on mezzanine, that is the things that I am just obsessed with. I came away from and I was like, jaw on the floor, loved. Then we got So Fetch, and that's something that I really enjoyed, would probably go see again, but I wasn't completely and utterly blown away. I was just like, oh, a nice, like, I'm glad I saw it, that was a nice vibe. And then after that, we've got Not My Vibe. So this isn't me saying that it's a bad show, a bad cast, anything like that. I believe that there's no such thing as the best musical in the world and the worst musical in the world. I've got my favourite and my least favourite, but that's not the same for everyone. So I thought Not My Vibe would be a good way of phrasing that one. And then last but not least, we've got Made Me Les Miserables. And I actually don't think anything is going to go in this. It also doesn't make sense because that means Made Me the Miserable, but we're going to pretend that it just says Made Me Miserable. But I don't think anything has made me miserable this year, so I don't know if anything's going to go in that tier. So I'm going to start with Next to Normal at the Donmar, which is the first show I saw this academic year. So I saw it on the 21st of September in 2023, and I saw the beautiful cast of Casey Levy, I think it's Levy and not Levy, I'm never sure, but I think it's Casey Levy as Diana, Jamie Parker as Dan, Jack Wolf as Gabe, Trevor Dion Nicholas as Dr. Madden, Jack Africio as Henry, and I actually saw a cover Natalie, so instead of seeing Eleanor Worthington Cox, I think I saw Lucy Munden. Before I go into this, I just want to set a quick trigger warning. There are mentions of mental illness, suicide, child loss, and drug misuse in this show. They are themes in the show, so that's worth knowing. This show is just stunning. I feel like it portrays mental illness with such sensitivity and respect. And I actually watched a video of like the casting conversation, and they were talking about how they had so many mental health professionals in on the rehearsal process, which I think is so special and so important. I don't want to give too much away because I think it's like a better viewing experience if you don't know what you're going into. I did know what I was going into. I had listened to the soundtrack and I knew like the plot. I much prefer the London cast's version of the music. Bear in mind the soundtrack on Spotify is 15 years old, so it just feels so updated and so fresh now. I just say every cast member was absolutely immaculate in telling the story and in their performance, but Casey Levy is just, I just believe every word she says, and I just find her performance so powerful. I literally just sobbed. Something you have to be prepared for if you are going to see Next to Normal is take tissues. You are going to sob, but it is just so worth the watch. I think whether you're someone who has had a lot of experience with mental illness or not. So if you couldn't already tell, I'm a bit obsessed with Next to Normal. So it's going to go in my top tier, which is Sublime. Next show we've got on the list is The Little Big Things, which I saw at Soho Palace in October 2023. So I am actually going to do like a quick rundown. This is from London Theatre website. I'm just going to read it out for you. So, adapted from Henry Fraser's best-selling memoir, the story unfolds during a 2009 holiday to Portugal with teenage Henry and his brothers. Tragedy strikes when a diving mishap leaves him with a damaged spinal cord. He embarks on an artistic career, all while embracing life's little big things. So this show for me, I absolutely love the sentiment of it. I love the story. I love the fact that it's a true story. I think it's a really important story to tell. I definitely felt like, as a person who's never upfront experienced disability with myself or anyone around me, I found it really enlightening, and I feel like I really learned so much. For me, the music let it down a little bit. It wasn't my fave score that I've ever heard, but I did think that the way it was done and like the set and visuals of it were really, really cool. It didn't feel like the finished product in terms of the music. It just felt a bit, I don't know, it wasn't my favourite music. But that being said, I think it's really important to see the story. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth watching. This is actually available to watch on National Theatre at home. So I'm going to put Little Big Things in third tier, which is not my vibe, purely because I'm rating the whole experience of going to see the musical, and for me, the music has a massive effect. So I'm going to put it in tier 3, not my vibe. Okay, so the next musical I went to see was Old Friends at the Gielgud Theatre. I saw this on Monday, the 30th of October 2023. I sat in the middle of the stalls and I absolutely loved this. So from the West End Theatre website, they said the gala concert, which celebrated the life of Stephen Sondheim, starred a number of Broadway, West End and movie legends. Obviously, the legend that is Stephen Sondheim, we lost in 2021, and I think it was so necessary to have a celebration of all of his music. And I'm personally, if you can tell from my Mrs. Lovett jumper that I've got on, I am a massive Sondheim fan. I knew when I saw that this was happening, I knew that I had to see it, and it was so special. I mean, the cast was insane. My cast included Bernadette Peters, Leah Saronga, Christina Lardo, Gavin Lee, Bonnie Langford, Bradley Jaden, Joanna Riding, Jason Pennycook, like absolute West End and Broadway legends. And I just felt so grateful to experience it. That being said, as much as I loved it, it was absolutely amazing. I would always prefer to go see a musical than a concert, you know? So I loved it. For a concert, it was like the best concert I've ever seen. But I'm not going to put it in Sublime just because it was not a fully fledged musical. So it's going to go in So Fetch. So, next thing I saw was Hamilton at the Victoria Palace Theatre on the 31st of October 2023. So, Halloween. Crazy. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what Hamilton is, but for those of you who don't, Hamilton is an American musical sung and rapped through. The music covers the life of American founding father Alexander Hamilton and his involvement in the American Revolution. It casts non-white actors as the founding fathers of the United States and other historical figures. And that's from Wikipedia. I was lucky enough to sit in a box. So this was really cool. It ended up being cheaper than like regular seats somehow. So my mum, I have to thank for that. She managed to get a box, which was so cool. And I would recommend, if you can ever sit in a box, do it. I actually had a medical procedure earlier in the day, and so I was in quite a lot of pain. And so it was very nice to have a box so that I could like wiggle around when I was uncomfortable. So this was my third time seeing Hamilton, I think. So third cast, although the first two times were quite close together, so a lot of the cast was the same, whereas this was a whole new cast, and I absolutely loved it. So this was Alex Sawyer as Hamilton and Simon Anthony Roden as Burr. I just thought it's flawless. Like, this show always has been flawless. The way that it's produced, I find the choreography, it's just, there's nothing like it. It's incomparable to anything else. I just think it's so slick and so satisfying to watch that as an audience member you feel so like safe. Yeah, I feel like it's hard to, because I know Hamilton so well, I genuinely know it inside out, and I have watched it 3 times. I feel like it's hard to form a review because I knew what I was expecting. I knew that it was going to be perfection, and it was. I mean, I have to put it in Sublime. I think it's brilliant. I think it's genius. I think it's genius writing, and I think it's insanely performed. So Hamilton is going in Sublime. So the next show I saw was Lizzie. I saw it at the Southwark Playhouse on the 25th of November 2023. This is from the Southwark Playhouse website. Lizzie the musical explores the life of Lizzie Borden, who was accused of murdering her father and stepmother with an axe in the late summer of 1892 in Fall River, Massachusetts. The musical delves into her complex psyche and speculates on the motivations she may have had. Lizzie, along with her older sister Emma, maid Bridget, and neighbour Alice, bring life to the infamous story, supported on stage by an all-female band. So my cast was Lauren Drew as Lizzie, Aisha Patel as Bridget, Shakina McFarlane as Emma, and Maya Kwanzaa-Breed as Alice. So I had never actually heard of this story. Apparently it's quite a well-known story, but I have never heard of it before, and so I found the story itself fascinating. I am a bit of a true crime lover, so a musical about true crime, I was like, yes please. Also, the all-female aspect, loved. I found it really similar to Six. Obviously, Lauren Drew, who plays Lizzie, has been in Six, and there were also other cast members that have been in Six. But I found that the vibe was really similar. It was like a rock concert. Personally, the music is not my fave. I did like it, but some of it felt a little bit like bit simplistic and like there could have been more done with it music wise, but I did really enjoy it. I thought it was like a really fun night, and like I say, as a true crime gal, there you go. It's actually doing a run at Manchester's Hope Mill Theatre starting in October and running until November 2024. But yeah, I would recommend, but personally for me, I'm gonna put it in not my vibe tier just because I wouldn't see it again. I did enjoy it, but I wouldn't choose to go and watch it again just because the music wasn't for me. And like, I prefer a fully fledged musical to a concert vibe. So yeah, it's gonna go in not my vibe. Okay, so now we're on to Guys and Dolls. So Guys and Dolls I saw on the 5th of January 2024 at the Bridge Theatre. It's important to say where I sat. So I sat on the front row of the seated seats. I don't know how else to put that. So there's two choices when you pick your seats. So you either pick a seat or you pick to be standing. I was a bit worried that because it's like an immersive production, that might kind of make you feel a little bit like isolated and like not involved in the action, but I genuinely felt really immersed and involved the whole time. So this is from the Bridge Theatre website. The seating is wrapped around the action, while the immersive tickets transport you to the streets of Manhattan and the bars of Havana in the unlikeliest of love stories. I absolutely loved this show. Obviously, I can't like compare it to the standing experience, and I do really want to experience that. I think now that I've seen it seated and I've like taken it all in, I think I would really like to see it standing. The highlights of the cast for me were Marisha Wallace, who played Adelaide, and Cedric Neal, who played Nicey Johnson. Sit Down, You're Rocking the Vote was just immaculate, and his riffs, his vocal agility is insane, absolutely unmatched. Like, I've never known anything like it. The only person I can compare it to is Jodie Steele when I saw her in Bonnie and Clyde. That just Cedric Neal's voice is like honey, like it just is so smooth and the riffs are so effortless, and I was just there like. I also have to say special mention to Leslie Garcia Bowman, who tapped in the interval. He had a tap section and I loved it. It was so cool. It just felt like all the little extras they'd like really put so much thought into it being not just I'm going to see a show, but having an experience the whole time. And I think it's really stuck with me and it's been really special. This is still at the Bridge Theatre, I believe, with a new cast. So get yourself some tickets. They also do rush tickets. They do standing rush tickets. I highly recommend. It's good vibes. The music is amazing. The performances are amazing. The set's amazing. The whole thing. So if you hadn't guessed yet, this is going in sublime. So I saw Mrs. Doubtfire at the Shaftesbury Theatre on the 9th of February 2024. It is the West End's hit comedy musical based on the beloved film. Out-of-work actor Daniel will do anything for his kids. After losing custody in a messy divorce, he creates the alter ego of Scottish Nanny. As his new character takes on a life of its own, Mrs. Doubtfire teaches Daniel more than he bargained for about how to be a father. This show was actually so much better than I was expecting, but I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of it. So obviously this show is the kind that can bring in fans of the movie. It's more mainstream than like niche musical theatre, and sometimes I think those shows suffer from a lack of quality because it's commercialised for a larger audience. This show, I thought the quality of performances was absolutely brilliant, and I just thought it was so funny. Before I watched it, I had never actually watched Mrs. Doubtfire the movie, and so I was kind of going into it blind. Like, I vaguely knew what it was about, but I was like experiencing the story as it went, and I just loved it. I thought it was so feel good. I thought Gabriel Vick as Daniel / Mrs. Doubtfire absolutely stole the show. Like, he is the show, he is the essence of the show. So it's not going to go down in history as my favourite musical, but it was wholesome and it was good, and it was like I would go and watch it again because it was a really good night. And so I'm going to put it in tier 2, so fetch. Okay, we are on to Standing at the Sky's Edge. So I saw this at the Gillian Lynn on the 28th of May 2024. I sat in the front row of the dress circle, and this is what it says on the Sky's Edge musical website. Standing at the Sky's Edge is a kaleidoscopic portrait of an ever-changing estate, charting the highs and lows and loves and losses of 3 generations over 6 tumultuous decades. Set to the irresistible songs of legendary singer-songwriter Richard Hawley, with a beautiful, hilarious and gut-wrenching book by Chris Bush. So, I want to preface this by saying that I really love the concept of this musical. It is all about generational change and how one building can have so many stories to it, and I love it. I thought the sentiment behind it was amazing, and I really enjoyed the story and the way it was written. And I thought as well the performances of the actors were pretty faultless. They were really, really good. Now, that being said, for me, I really didn't like the music of this show. I didn't actually realise before I went to watch it that it was a jukebox musical, and it makes a lot of sense now, because at the time I was like, why is the music like this? But I feel strongly that this show would be better as a play with maybe little short excerpts of music. I think this person is an odd choice for a jukebox musical. I don't know anything about the artist, I will put that out there. But Mamma Mia, for instance, really successful jukebox musical. It's because those songs, while yes, they weren't written for musical theatre, they have a journey. And I think that is what these songs were missing. It almost felt like so disconnected from the character and the plot. There would be a scene with the theme of, I don't know, regret. And then the actor would then step away from the scene and sing a song about regret. As a generalized theme, it would feel really impersonal to the character's story. And it also, the way it was done, it was like they suddenly weren't their character anymore. Now they were a rock singer. And I think it really took you out of it. I felt like the songs were too long, like I got bored. They were repetitive and they weren't moving the story along, they weren't moving the plot along. But that being said, I think it could have been such a beautiful play with music. So for this one, it's going to go in tier 3. It's going to go in Not My Vibe. Okay, Kiss Me Kate. I saw this very recently. I saw it at the Barbican on the 3rd of August 2024. The star-studded cast, can I just say. So I saw Stephanie J. Block, Adrian Dunbar, Charlie Stem, Georgina Onawara, I could have butchered that, and Jack Butterworth as Paul. I sat in the stalls, row E, and the view was so good. These were rush tickets and I couldn't believe our luck. So this is from the Barbican website. Kiss Me Kate is a simple love story about 2 people who just can't stand each other. This show was just joyful. I'm not the biggest fan of Legit, but this show doesn't feel legit. It feels really modern. The music feels like it's been translated for a 2024 audience. Obviously, Stephanie J. Block was flawless. Absolutely flawless. Most of the cast were, to be honest, but I have to give a special mention to Jack Butterworth because Too Darn Hot was probably the most impressive musical theatre performance I've ever seen. He is so insane, Jack Butterworth. He stole the show for me. But I just thought the whole show was like the perfect balance of hilarious and like witty, quality performance, vocally and physically so impressive and so enjoyable to watch as an audience member. I just thought that the whole show was perfect. For that reason, it's going to go in Sublime. Okay, so next I saw Starlight Express at the Troubadour on Wednesday the 14th of August. I saw the matinee performance. I was sat in carriage 4 and this was rush tickets again and I was very, very impressed. As a child's train set magically comes to life and the engines race to become the fastest in the world, Rusty the steam train has little hope of winning until he's inspired by the legend of the Starlight Express. Who don't know the show? It's insane. So it's literally actors playing trains and they're on roller skates the whole time. The way the Troubadour is set out, it's almost like a warehouse rather than a theatre, especially being in a carriage, which is where I was sat. Their skating happens like next to and behind you as well as in front of you. So it feels really, really immersive. Even from the moment I stepped into the foyer, I was like, jaw on the floor at the decor and like the visual effects. Like it was so cool. Onto the show itself, it's not my fave and I wasn't expecting it to be because to me it feels really similar to Cats, which is obviously another Lloyd Webber. There's almost a formula. Each character gets introduced with their own introduction song and then they have like a big competition, or so in Cats it's like the competition for the who's going up to heaven, whereas in Starlight Express it's a big race amongst all the trains. And the music was definitely like a similar vibe, and it's not my favourite vibe. That being said, I was definitely won over by the visual effects, and the things like the costumes were just impeccable. Like they were amazing. They were so cool. Yeah, I'm not a visual person, so I'm usually really focused on music. Like, music is my main thing. If I have noticed things like costumes and set, and I've come away being affected by visuals, then that's a really big thing for me. They had like a solar system. I don't want to ruin it because it's so special to go in and it'll be like, wow. Another really cool thing was the inclusion of professional skaters. I think they could have used them more and done more tricks, but that was a really cool element to it. So yeah, like I say, the musical itself is not my thing, and I am staying true to myself in that, even though the flashiness of the presentation did win me over, and I would recommend seeing it. I'm going to put it in tier 3. Okay, so next we've got Sister Act, which I saw at the Dominion Theatre on that evening, starring Alexandra Burke as Dolores, Leslie Joseph as Mother Superior, Lee Mead as Eddie Souther, and Lizzie B as Sister Mary Robert. I sat in the stalls, row E, and it was such a good view. It was really, really good to see. This is what the Sister Act musical website says. Based on the beloved film and featuring a marvellous Motown-inspired score by Alan Menken, this story of music, mishaps and nuns on the run is a joyous and uplifting tale of finding your voice and singing out with your sisters by your side. It's ultimate cheese is what it is. And for me, this show has such like a nostalgic place in my heart because I did an amateur version of this when I was a kid. So I know the book inside out. I know the music inside out. It just feels really like warm and fuzzy. Talking about individual performances, Alexandra Burke I absolutely loved as Dolores. I thought she was amazing. Another huge highlight for me was Lizzie B as Sister Mary Robert. So I've seen her at West End Live a couple of times, but I think seeing her, and she has always blown me away, but I think seeing her performance in context made it like it was a whole other level. Like, it was so impressive and moving, and I love her. She just seems like the nicest human being. Another thing I just want to mention is the way that Spread the Love Around, so the final song, has been changed to like highlight pride. I think seeing that as part of a musical about nuns and religion, and having the Monsignor played by Carl Mullaney, it'll be like an LGBT icon. It just feels so special, and it made me really proud to see. I love that change that they've done. So yeah, for me, this is something that I would happily go and watch again, and I love the music. I loved the cast. I thought it was so brilliant, but it's not going to change the world, you know? Yeah, Sister Act's going to go and sit in tier 2 for me. It's going to go in so fetch. Next, we've got Hello Dolly, which I saw at the Palladium on Wednesday the 28th of August. I saw the matinee. We sat front row, which was amazing. It says restricted view on Today Ticks, but it really didn't feel like it. And some of the ensemble numbers that like you're not seeing the whole picture of the stage, because it is one of those things, because it is a legit musical and it's a really like classic Broadway vibe. The ensemble numbers are a massive spectacle. The best view is probably like front row of the first circle because you get to see like the whole thing. Meddlesome socialite turned matchmaker Dolly Levi travels to Yonkers, New York to find a match for the unmarried half-a-millionaire Horace Vandergelder. But everything changes when she decides that the next match she needs to make is for herself. So, I actually didn't know the story of Hello Dolly at all. This show was just a joy. Like, it just felt so wholesome. Imelda Staunton, oh my gosh, she is a beautiful actress. Like, she's just stunning. I did speak a little bit about this show last week in my weekly vlog, so I don't want to go on about it too much. Yeah, this show is just, like, feel good, and it just... Again, it was that warm, fuzzy feeling, and I feel very blessed to have seen Imelda Staunton as Dolly. Like, I feel like that's quite special. So, this is going to go into tier 2. Okay, we have got Cabaret, which I saw at the Playhouse Theatre officially, but the Kit Kat Club is what it's known as at the moment. So I saw this on Wednesday the 28th of August. Trigger warnings include anti-Semitism, drug and alcohol misuse, and pregnancy and abortion. My advice for Cabaret is to go in fairly blind. Go to this timestamp to not get any spoilers. Okay, so this is people who don't mind spoilers. So the first half is all about freedom in Berlin and self-expression. And then there's a flip into oppression in the rise of Hitler. I hate to be all A-level drama about this, but it's a really Brechtian piece in that it feels so reflective when you're sat there, instead of the audience hang up their brains with their coats. You can't help but reflect on what happened in history. The music is literally addictive. Like, I can't stop listening to the soundtrack since I've seen it. The show itself was just flawless. So I saw Rhea Norwood as Sally Bowles, because I'd seen Heartstopper and she plays such a wholesome character. Like, that's such a wholesome show, and I was like, oh, Sally Bowles is very close to the bone, but she absolutely pulled it off. Like, she was so good. I absolutely loved her performance. And then also Leighton Williams as the MC, which I had some doubts because people had said that it's like he was playing himself, but I have to say I disagree with that. I've seen Leighton in quite a few shows. So I've seen him in Hairspray, I've seen him in Rent, Jamie, and I did a workshop with him, so I've actually met him in person. Despite all of that, there were times in Cabaret that I forgot I was watching Leighton Williams, and I feel like that says so much about his performance. All I can say about Cabaret is watch it. Like, just go and watch it. I know it's expensive. What me and my mum actually did was we waited until about 6 o'clock and then we checked the ticket. I think they'd been reduced because it was like so close to the show. So for Cabaret, it has to go into Sublime. It has to. So, last but not least, this is very full circle. The last show I saw in this academic year was Next to Normal, which I saw on the 29th of August at the Wyndham's Theatre. I saw the matinee and we were a bit worried that it wouldn't be main cast. Not to put the understudies or alternates down at all. It's more that I had seen like Jack Wolf and Casey Levy and I really wanted my family to see them. It was them, and I even got to see Eleanor Worthington Cox, who I didn't see the first time, so it was the whole of the original cast. So we sat in the stalls, we sat in row D, and it was amazing. Obviously the production is the same as the first time I saw it, and so a lot of the things I have to say are the same. The only thing I can really comment on is Eleanor Worthington Cox's performance, which really moved me, made me sob even more than I already was. She was amazing, she was brilliant. The only other thing I can comment on is the seating. So at the Donmar, I saw it from above. The stalls are usually my favourite place to sit, but I would recommend for Next to Normal actually sitting in the first circle, because there were a few things that I remember being really effective that we actually missed being in the stalls because you couldn't see. Like, there was quite a bit that happens like on the floor of the stage. There we go. I mean, Next to Normal, it's going in Sublime again because it was the same show and it was just as amazing. So that is my final tier list. As I thought, nothing went in made me miserable. Let me know below if there's any other like tier lists you want me to do, or if you disagree with any of these things, if you've been to see any of these shows and what you thought, or if you have any more specific questions about going to see these shows, please do let me know. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you're enjoying the channel so far.